But having said all those wonderful things about emerging or developing markets, I always find those words to be interesting given how advanced they are already that we continue to call them emerging markets. I wouldn't discount the developed world. I wouldn't discount what's happening here in the United States or in Europe. And I think there's one, there are lots of reasons that are listed on the slide, but one of the major reasons that I would give for not discounting the home base is the networking effect. I'll give you an example. It's not a real estate example, but it's an example of how connections are made in New York City for foreigners. The city has a program called Venture Fellows, where we bring in international entrepreneurs that are successful, and we think that in the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to be scaling their businesses enough that they're going to have to start thinking about international operations. And as they think about international operations, we obviously want them to think about New York City. So we bring them to the city under a mentorship program, and we assign mentors to them. So there's this person from Brazil who's in the textile business in China, and we think that he has a very technology-based business that could be a perfect fit for the fashion industry here in New York City. So we brought him to New York, and we assigned 2 mentors to him. We assigned him a mentor from a very active leading venture capital firm here in New York, and we assigned him a mentor who's the CEO of a leading footwear retailer here in the city. And his investor mentor, so he showed his mentor his business plan in terms of how he's actually going to expand his business to New York City. And his investor mentor told him, don't come to New York. Because there's nothing proprietary about your technology and there's nothing proprietary about your business model. And if you come to New York, you're not going to be able to compete with the local. Not exactly the message we wanted the mentor to deliver to the fellow, but it's an honest feedback. And his other mentor, who happens to be the CEO of a very large footwear retailer here in New York City, helped him to actually make some connections with Pakistan. So now he's opening his branch operation in Pakistan. So it did not exactly work out as we had planned. Our plan was for this person to come to New York City and set up an operation in New York City and create jobs in New York City and help the fashion industry here in New York City. But it is an example of how this is a very networked city. It is an example of how connections are made here in New York City that are beneficial all over the world. So that would be, one of my major points on don't discount where you are today. You want to expand internationally. You want to bring international clients to New York City, but start making your connections here in New York City. I mean, this is an extraordinarily international and well-networked place. And that is the advantage of New York City's business community, right? It's more expensive to operate here. It's probably got more legal requirements and regulations than other places, but people continue to come here because this is where businesses is connected, and this is where people make connections. So in terms of a few recommendations, I'm just going to stick with the first column in terms of residential sales. And this is really, this page in particular, I think I'm really talking out of my comfort zone. And this is simply based on some observations that we've seen in our office in dealing with individuals and companies that come here to the United States. I think if you think about, even if you think about how the European businesses came 50, 60 years ago, and you think back to the 1970s and the 1980s when the Japanese came to New York City and started moving into a variety of different suburban areas, and you think about kind of the Middle Easterns that came 10, 15 years ago, and you think about the Russians, the Brazilians, the Chinese, and some of the Indians that are coming here, we find that there's a typical pattern, which is that they start with residential real estate. They start with where is their next home going to be, and they start with education for their children. And from there, we see and it's almost kind of like you need a very large base, right? And that's why we, from an economic development point of view, is so supportive of residential investment from foreign investors, because we find that you start with a base that's this big, that's buying residential real estate. And then you kind of narrow it down to a base that's about this big for individuals that are comfortable enough and know this market well enough through living here that they'll dabble a little bit in commercial real estate. And then the pool shrinks significantly to a group of people we, from an economic development point of view, truly cares about, which are companies and business people who actually set up their operations here in New York City that create jobs for local New Yorkers. But you need to start with a big base. So in a sense, the bigger the base is, the bigger the last pool of people we truly care about in terms of job creation is going to be. So the people that we've seen, and most of the people we've seen from our office over the past 2 to 3 years I would say, are from Latin America and from China specifically. Just enormous amount of people coming from China too that are interested in residential real estate. And they think of it as an investment opportunity, but they also think of it as a home. And they care tremendously about where their kids can go to school, not just for universities, but starting from high school or even grammar school. And they care both about public and private institutions that are available to them. And I think even more so than real estate, that is an area that completely confuses them. I mean, New York City's public school system is, I have a 20-month-old that I'm trying to get into preschool, and it really is beyond me. I mean, the amount of research and consulting that we have to do in order to figure out where to send our kids to school, and we're local, so you can imagine how difficult it is for foreigners coming in who care about this particular issue. And we get thrown a lot of those questions from these people, and we always say, that's not our area of expertise, and I refer them to different brokers and consultants who specialize in this area. But that is what we're seeing, which is people come here first and foremost for family, and they come here first and foremost to buy residential real estate. And then from there, as they gain comfort level with the city, they move into a number of different areas in terms of other investment opportunities. So this is just a very quick overview in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the international flow. From the city's perspective, the international money that is coming into New York City is very important. For a very practical reason, there's just not enough money domestically. And whether it's for commercial real estate development projects that we need to do on the west side, in the outer boroughs, whether it is to uphold our residential value, whether it is to uphold our office space leasing prices, for all of these different reasons, it's an area that we pay a tremendous amount of attention to. And I want to commend all of you for being in the trenches and actually doing this work on a day-to-day basis and actually closing deals and bringing clients into New York City and contributing to the city's economic development environment. So I want to thank you guys all for doing tremendous work in that
area. She hails from Taiwan and has the distinct advantage of being able to speak 3 different dialects of Chinese. That's amazing. She is active, excuse me. She's active not only in the Chinese Real Estate Association, where she served as past president, but she will be the 2012 president of the Asian Real Estate Association of America. In addition to her membership, oh, you got applause already, see? One is plenty. In addition to her membership in FIABCI, she'll explain that, the well-known International Real Estate Association. Another dimension to her real estate business is her interest and commitment in sustainability, as evident by her eco-broker and green certified credentials. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce Kathy Tao of Prudential Douglas Elliman. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Phyllis, for such a kind introduction, and thanks, Frederick and Mena, for inviting me here. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to break down my presentation to 3 segments. Number 1, I want to share with you how do I build up this international buyers business. And second part, I want to share some of the statistics with you. And number 3, I'm going to share with you some of the best practice. Again, this is all my personal experience, and I hope up to 15 minutes later, you can find some of the information to be useful to you. I was born in Taiwan. I immigrated to the United States when I was a teenager, so English is really my second language, and I can speak, read, write Chinese fluently. And little did I know, later on, after many, many years, and this could be one of the the great advantage, helping me make more money in this international real estate market. I have been a real estate broker in Manhattan for the last 15 years, and I didn't know how did it happen. I mean, 15 years ago, I didn't set up to become a real estate broker selling international, market. But I guess it was 10 years ago. I was intrigued, okay, by this international segment. So I started out, which is I'm glad I did it. I became a CIPS. How many are CIPS in here? That's wonderful. Certified International Property Specialist. I became a CIPS certified, and I also joined the FIAPSI 10 years ago. It was those, hunger for knowledge that really brought me here. My turning point is really in 2008, because I was a volunteer for two associations. One of them is local in Chinese Association in New York City. The other is ARIA, which is a National Asian Real Estate Association in America. And I did not know by becoming a volunteer, not only become a member, but I became also involved with the association. And that really helped me change my business, because as of just second to what Nikki says, right now, believe it or not, majority of my business are international, mostly from Asia, China, Chinese buyer, and I'm really grateful. The last 2-3 years, most of my deals are cash transaction, and again, it was just really very interesting journey how I become involved in the international arena. I'm going to share some of the statistics with you. Second to what Frederick talked about this before, as you can see, between 2010, the domestic home sales and versus 2011, the number has increased. As of March 31st, 2011, it's $1.07 trillion. This is the amount of money generated by international buyer. Okay, as you can see in 2011, again, the origin of international purchasers. Number one, still North America, Canada. Number two, Asia, 26%. So 1 out of the 4 transactions by international purchasers are from Asia. Okay, international purchaser by country of origin, as you can see. Canadian still a number 1 purchaser in this country, followed by Mexico, United Kingdom, China, Hong Kong, ranking number 1 from all the Asian buyers from Asia. Top 7 locations for foreign purchasers: Florida, California, Arizona, Texas, Georgia, and New York. Well, there we are. I think we are number 7. And as you can see, majority of international purchasers are all cash buyer, which is we have no complaint, right? We can close the deal within 2 or 3 weeks, yeah? We wish you had more buyer like that. Okay, and in the New York City, New York home ownership as of 2008, this is a UCLA study done for our association area. As you can see, again, Chinese, Taiwanese, and Filipino, and Indian, they are all number 2 buyers. Actually, number 1 buyers, all of them in New York City. So how many people have done some deal with a Chinese foreign international buyer? Can you raise your hand? Okay, quite a few. That's wonderful. Okay.